Hello everybody and welcome to Weston People. I'm here today with Astrix.
Hello.
Hello Astrix.
How are you?
Good to see you. Now, Astrix is a very sort of unusual first name. Is it a name that is actually your name, or have you had it for a little while?
No, it's definitely not. It's a nickname that I've carried through from school into the tattoo business. It's more like a show name.
Fantastic. And how did it come about?
It came about from school. My initials on my books were Gaul.
Okay.
So someone in their infinite wisdom put Astrix above them, and it's just stuck.
As they do at school?
As they do at school.
As in the cartoon sketch Asterix?
Exactly, yeah.
Right, okay. Now, tattooing has and always will be a very interesting subject. The British have a real love for tattooing. Do you know anything about the history of tattooing?
Well, they found like cavemen that have markings of tattoos on. So it obviously goes way back in time.
Sure.
Also in ancient Egypt, they found mummies that have tattoos on.
Yeah.
And also the ancient Britons used to tattoo.
That's amazing. I suppose so they could actually assemble which tribe they belong to and
yeah, they would have the markings on their face so that they knew which tribe was friends, which tribes were enemies.
Wonderful.
And they could recognise each other.
Wow. The great thing about tattooing is you can actually now choose what tattoo you want to have. Yeah. But the times have obviously changed from the past as well. But first of all, a little bit about yourself. What was the first tattoo you had?
First tattoo I had was when I was in the army, and I went into a tattoo studio, and then it used to be just pictures on the wall. You had no choice, you had to choose something.
Sure.
And I chose an Indian. Instead of having the face, it had a skull on it. Okay. I was young and I was in the army, so
absolutely, it was your choice.
It was my, yes.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. Well, the first one I ever got, a friend from a long time ago chose for me, but luckily I still like that tattoo to this day, which is always a good thing, because it's with you quite some time.
Yeah, I still like my tattoo now. It's sentimental, really.
Absolutely, yeah, that's wonderful. And whereabouts was it? Where did you get it?
I got it on my top of my arm here, which is about the easiest place to be tattooed on.
Sure.
The least painful, so that's where I went for.
Right, and how old were you?
I was 18.
Okay. A reason for that?
I wanted it before.
Yeah.
But it is the law that you must be 18.
Sure.
Even though I thought I could bring my parents in and they could say yes, I was turned away.
Yeah.
It is the strict law, you must be 18 to get tattooed.
The letter of the law.
Yeah.
It's unusual, isn't it? Because we don't look at tattooing as something which would have a law or an age category, or you have to be over a certain age limit to have one. Sure. Alcohol, cigarettes, things like this, you understand there's an age, but tattooing, well, probably myself included until now, I didn't realise that.
Right, yeah.
Tattooing, you got into it as a hobby, or you just liked the tattooing?
No, I came out of the army. And I went and did, I used to like my art.
Sure.
So I thought, well, what can I do with art?
Yeah.
I got speaking to a local tattoo artist, and he wanted to see some of my drawings. And from there, he said, well, would you like to do an apprenticeship?
Sure.
My apprenticeship was 5 years of a long slog.
Quite some time.
Yeah.
And do you enjoy what you do now?
Oh, I absolutely love it. It's not a job, it's a way of life.
Yeah.
It really is. You know, even when you come home from the studio, you're in drawing for the next day. So
sure.
It just doesn't stop.
So you go to work. Do you have tattoos in mind for people? Do you see some people and think, well, I tell you what, that would look fantastic on you? Or do you normally go by what they tell you?
Yes, you've got to take their ideas.
Sure.
I will say to them, if I think their ideas are rubbish, I will actually tell them and be blunt about it.
Absolutely.
But you try and work with them and get a happy medium, and they normally trust you.
Yes, yes.
And it is a big thing of trust.
Well, I did.
Yes.
You did mine.
Yes.
It looks fantastic.
Right. That's it.
Advice is always a good thing as well, especially if you're in that trade. You've been in it as long as you have been. You're very, very good at what you do as well. And we've seen that on many, many different people. Famous people, people who you associate with, not only from this country, but people who are very well known and renowned, obviously, for tattooing as well. Can't go into names, obviously, but you have information, advice for people which is valuable. For example, some people like to put the date of birth of a child on their arm, etc.
Yes.
But you would say to somebody, well, I wouldn't do that because...
Sometimes it can look like a memorial tattoo
okay.
rather than a date of birth.
Yeah.
It's quite tricky, especially if you've put roses or crosses with a name.
Absolutely.
You know, and then you put a date, you can then look at it as a memorial tattoo.
So what turns out, well, starts off as a romantic idea can sometimes look, okay.
Go to a macabre.
Well, you don't want to be upsetting people, do we?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so the first tattoo that you did in your line of business, were you nervous?
Oh, of course. I think my hands was shaking. I never thought I'd connect to the skin.
Sure.
But once I got going and started to enjoy the feeling and I knew I had the artwork in me. I had the capabilities to do it.
You had the confidence that you knew what you were doing?
Yes. Okay. It was just, when you first start, you're a little bit worried about hurting someone.
Sure, I can understand that, absolutely.
Yeah. But once you find out really it's not that painful, you're not really hurting them. Yeah. And when you get to see their face at the end of it,
makes it all worthwhile.
It makes it worthwhile when they're really happy with their tattoo.
Oh, that's really good. It's always nice to enjoy what you're doing as well. And you get to see an end result, but that end result isn't like a painting where an artist would paint something. It's something which is with somebody pretty much for life.
Forever,
yeah. It's not something you could just rub out. So, you know, it must be a fantastic feeling of self-esteem as well. So, well done. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question now. What is the most unusual tattoo that you have done?
I've done quite a few unusual ones. Probably the most unusual would be like a portrait I did on a guy's back of a can of baked beans, open with the baked beans flowing out.
Right. And why would somebody have a can of baked beans tattooed on their back?
Apparently his nickname was Beanie. Okay. And that's all he ate, was baked beans.
Right.
So he obviously had an obsession with baked beans.
Somebody wouldn't really want to spend a lot of time with...
No.
Brilliant. And throughout the tattooing industry that you've actually been involved with tattooing, how long have you been tattooing now in total?
About 16 years now.
Yeah, so quite some time.
Some time, yeah. I mean, there's old boys out there that are still tattooing into their 80s, you know, what we call old school.
And have things changed? I mean, if they were to now start the business from what they knew or had a break in between, would they be surprised at some of the changes which have now taken place?
The changes are just phenomenal.
What sort of changes, Astrix?
Really, in the last 10 years, the changes have really started to happen.
Yeah.
The machinery is a lot better that we use. Yeah. The hygiene is completely different. Whereas years ago, they would use one needle and that would last them until that needle was no good.
Crikey, so using the same needle over and over again for the different people?
Exactly.
Right.
Which there was not the recognised, you know, viruses about. Sure. The knowledge wasn't there. Yeah. Whereas nowadays, everything is disposable. The needles are brand new, all the tubes and tips are new. Yeah. So the ink pots, everything is done to a hospital standard.
So the equipment's changed as well?
Yes.
A lot of people now say that when they get tattoos recently, compared to when they had one done a long time ago, not that it's a shock factor of how the first one felt, but they're now saying that it is a lot less pain, you know, it's a lot more painless, a lot less painful than they used to have.
Yes, for definite, because of the new machines that are coming in now. Yeah. Also, the needles are so much better. Yeah. You know, that's why it's less painful. Right. We don't have to really drive it in from these old clattery machines.
Sharper, finer.
Yeah, everything is just a lot more sort of like suited for. It's purpose built now for the industry. Yeah. Whereas the old boys used to have to make it in their garden sheds.
And ink, has ink changed?
Yeah. Fairly much. I mean, they had 7 colours back in the day. Yeah. I mean, we have now a range of probably 400 or 500 different colours. Wow. If you wanted to go that mad, there is so many different colours now. Yeah.
I suppose choosing's different as well, Astrix, isn't it? It's because, you know, when you chose yours, you mentioned it was on a board.
Yes, that's right.
How does it work now?
I mean, there are still studios that do that. But as I work as a complete custom artist. So basically someone will come in with an idea. We would use the old Google and find an image sort of like photographs or anything else, and from that I would draw something for them. So everyone is getting a one-off tattoo. They're not walking in choosing the same designs.
No,
like we used to have to.
That's incredible, isn't it? So it's not just a case of somebody choosing something and you doing the hard work, i.e. the tattooing. No. It now involves you sort of programming. Technology is now involved as well. That you do it all on the computer.
Sure. We use Photoshop. We mess around with the images to make it darker, lighter, to give it a more dramatic feel to the tattoo.
Sure.
So yes, technology is a major part of tattooing now.
Amazing. Even sepia, for example, you can now get a sepia effect, whereas before it would be black or just white or just colour.
Yes, exactly.
You can now get a photograph sepia effect
exactly. too. And I also do like colour portraits now, whereas always portraits used to be in black and grey.
Yes.
To get the detail, but because we got the machinery that puts in the subtle colours, we can do colour portraits now.
That's amazing. And of course you work in Weston-super-Mare.
Yes, I work at Custom Culture.
Yeah, wonderful. And any sort of future plans, any sort of tours?
Oh, for definite, because I do all the festivals, and I work backstage a lot at concerts.
Sure.
It gave me an idea to put a bus together.
Okay, single bus or small mini bus?
No, unfortunately, my wife has a double-decker bus parked on the drive.
On the drive?
Actually on the drive.
Right, right.
I've not had any problems by the neighbours yet.
No.
But we're starting to put the banners on the bus and everything else. So it's, yes, it's a big project. But it's going to be absolutely fantastic to do.
Wonderful. Charity work involved?
Yes, we're going to do some filming on the bus, and a guy called Dan Gold, who was in London Ink, is joining me. And we're going to go around the UK, visiting historical tattoo sites.
Wonderful. As
well as going to festivals, concerts.
All on the double-decker bus? All
on the double-decker bus.
And rumour has it you're driving?
And I'm driving. Okay. If you see this big white bus and tattoo signs on it, run. Right,
not a problem. That's not an issue. You let me know where you are and I'll make sure I'm in an opposite direction. You're meant to be very good at driving it as well, so...
It's taken a bit of practice. It's getting there.
And do you enjoy your festivals?
Oh, the festivals are just fantastic.
Yeah, and Dan, does he enjoy them?
No. Dan doesn't enjoy
He doesn't enjoy them?
No, he thinks festivals are disgusting because you know, he hasn't got a hairdryer and things like that.
Yeah. So chalk and cheese, really?
Yeah, completely.
But you play from each other, which is always, you know, a nice thing to have, a bit like the Morecambe and Wise kind of...
Yes, exactly. I mean, the comedy that between Dan and
wonderful.
Is really got a good connection.
That's wonderful.
We have been sort of like Laurel and Hardy more than Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so quite...
He's tall and thin and I'm...
Oh no, that's wonderful news. And when does the tour begin?
Well, we've got Strawberry Fields in 2 weeks' time.
Yep.
And that's going to be the start of the tour.
Where's Strawberry Fields, Astrix?
Strawberry Fields is up towards Donington.
Right.
In that region there.
Okay.
And it's big. It's not like the rock festivals that we normally do.
Sure.
It's the first time we've been to this one.
Yeah.
We've got a backstage area where we can tattoo the bands, the DJs, and so on, as well as the bus, which is then for filming and for the general public.
So it's not only is it going to be interesting, but you know, there are sort of some big plans ahead.
Oh gosh, yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, Astrix, thank you for coming in today. You know, I know that tattooing is something that not many people talk about, but many people have.
Yes.
So it's always interesting to see and hear things, which I truly have never known before. So I think you're a very interesting person and very talented one at that.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Lovely, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Tattooing, like I said before, it's something which isn't spoken about very often, but something that a lot of people have, including, like I said, the love from the British as well. Thank you for watching today, and I'll see you next week.